Himalaya Kiritinim Brahmarajyashiratnadhyam Vande Bharatamatam. Good evening and hearty welcome to all my beloved viewers for My Bharat campaign, a unique campaign on the occasion of 74th Independence Day celebration conducted by Disha Bharat. Out of the past is built the future, so says Swami Vivekananda. The past few days have been really enriching. The great eminent speakers have thrown light on the 1847, the war, the first war of Indian independence, rather, and our glorious journey since then. The great women freedom fighters, revolutionaries, educational revolution, and many more topics. I am sure you're very eager to know. Then, if this was the glory of India, what is there in the present and what is there to dream for us for the future? To throw light upon this wonderful topic, we have our eminent speaker for the day. I hereby request Srimati Rekha Ramchandran Madam, Founder Secretary, Disha Bharat, to introduce Disha to all of you and also our guest of honor. Over to you, Rekha ma'am.
Thank you, Sneha. Namaste and good evening to one and all of you. A very special welcome to our Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman. Namaste to you, ma'am. Bharat, as the very name suggests, is the land of knowledge, wisdom, spirituality, and values. And this legacy has been passed on and on for centuries. With changing times and today's lifestyles, we are living in a globalized world. We believe that it is critical for today's youth to have a connect with their glorious past, and for the last 15 years, Disha Bharat has reached more than 3.5 lakh students and many institutions to sensitize them on three important aspects: know yourself, know your country, know your culture, to enable our youth to have a globalized vision with an Indian dimension. So this is what Disha Bharat has been doing as an NGO to enable our youth so that we can create new generation, the millennial generation that can be globalized with a globalized vision, but a new age leadership with an Indian dimension. So we need to give that culture and that heritage to our children so that
your audio was inaudible, ma'am. You have to restart again.
We have to restart again? Okay, fine.
Yes.
Sneha, start for me.
All right. Please let me know when I should start. I'll be live. Namaste. Good evening, everybody. Hearty welcome to all my beloved viewers for My Bharat campaign, a unique Independence Day campaign that has been organized by Disha Bharat. Swami Vivekananda says, out of the past is built the future. So right it is. In the past few days of this Independence Day campaign, My Bharat, we have been listening to eminent speakers who threw light up from the Independence Day movement or independent revolution that has happened in our country since 1857. Since then, we got to know the glories of our country, the struggle of our freedom fighters, and the breath of freedom that we are taking today. That was indeed a wonderful journey. And I'm sure everybody would be thinking, if that was the glory of my country, what is there today? And what is there for the future? To dream about the future, to throw light upon these two topics, we have our eminent guest speaker today. It's an honor to host you, madam. To introduce our guest of honor, we have Srimati Rekha Ramchandran Madam with us, who is the founder secretary of Disha. I request Rekha ma'am to introduce Disha Bharat to all my beloved audience and also Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman. Over to you.
Thank you, Sneha. Namaste. Good evening to one and all of you. A special welcome to our Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji. Bharat, as the very name suggests, is a land of knowledge, wisdom, spirituality, and values. And this legacy has been passed on and on for centuries. With changing times and lifestyles in today's globalized world, we believe it is all the more imperative, critical for today's youth to have a connect to their glorious past. Hence, for the last 15 years, Disha Bharat has given importance to three important aspects of youth, that is, know yourself, know your country, know your culture. So with this, we want to enable the youth of this country to have a global vision with an Indian dimension. So we have sensitized lots of children all these years, for the last 15 years to be very precise, and we have been able to sensitize them, give them, instill values in them, create a sense of patriotism in them so that they become change agents, and we build a new age India based on the strong foundations of ancient Indian native wisdom and values. So this is what Disha is all about, madam, and this is an NGO working in this field for the last 15 years. Now, over to introduction of Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji. She needs no introduction at all, right? One of the most popular and famous ministers in today's government. Nirmala Sitharaman ji is a proud daughter of Karnataka. She is a member of parliament in the Rajya Sabha representing Karnataka. Currently, Nirmala Sitharaman ji serves as the Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Government of India. Nirmala Sitharaman formerly served as the Defence Minister of India. Prior to that, she has served as a spokesperson, national spokesperson for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Nirmala Sitharaman graduated in Bachelor of Arts degree in Economics at Sita Lakshmi Ramaswamy College, Trichy, Tiruchinappalli. Nirmala Sitharaman ji pursued her Masters of Arts degree in Economics and MPhil from the government Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. And she was the first woman full-time defense minister and first woman full-time finance minister for our country. Nirmala Sitharaman ji is known for her intellectual debates, speeches, analytical skills too. A role model, socio-political personality, known for her simplicity in personal and social life. Ma'am, we are so privileged to have you in this program today. And let me tell you, you are a role model to lakhs and lakhs of people in this country, especially the women, because you have reached such great heights of power, yet you're so rooted to our culture, and you are the face of Bharat, ma'am. And let me tell you, in this march towards New Bharat, building New Bharat, we are all with you, ma'am. And we promise and we take a resolve that we are going to be with you in this march towards Vishwaguru Bharat. And thank you so much, ma'am. And today, ma'am's topic is going to be India today and tomorrow. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this great honor and that you have been with us today. Very, very happy and great momentous occasion for Disha Bharat too, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Namaskar. Thank you very much, Disha Bharat, for having me today. And you have been holding a fortnight of lectures. A fortnight of lectures which are peaking with India's Independence Day, August 15th. You've had eminent speakers address you. You have picked and chosen topics which are going to matter to our youth, talking about our future, talking about where India today is, and so on. So in that series, I've been asked to talk about India of today and tomorrow. And particularly, I thank both Sneha and Rekha for having opened up this lecture for this evening with such cheer and promise. And it is that kind of energy and enthusiasm which keeps India moving forward with a lot of hope, even at a time like this, when all of us are adopting various different ways of communicating with one another. Although Indians, being a very sociable and highly warm people, have always had person-to-person kind of contacts, mingling among people and being together with a lot of people at a time so that there is that energy, the collective energy. However, Today, because of the pandemic, we are meeting in extraordinary circumstances, but Indians' readiness to adapt technology has helped us to get over the problem of distance, problem of not just social distancing, but also connecting with people who belong and who live in different parts of the country. So that itself, to me, sets the pace for today's talk, which is on India today and tomorrow. So that readiness of Indians, man, woman, elderly, children, everybody, to adapt to technology, to bring technology into their daily lives, has helped India actually in very many different ways, some of which I'll refer to in what I want to talk today before. Just to place us the context in which we are going to be talking today, I will have to state some of the obvious things which most of us always recognize, do recognize in our daily matters. But it is important for us to get a perspective, and therefore I'd like to say a few things which are self-explanatory and which are very, very obvious. Every sixth person in the world is an Indian. So if constantly we are reminded about our population, it's also important to know that every sixth person who's in the world is an Indian, means so much, not just for the world, but so much for us also to take in terms of our spirit with which we have to move. And among them, literally, 65% of all Indians live in rural India. So it's not as if we are so urbanized that we don't know what our rural India is like. But has it been something which is always the feature? Most often it's been the feature. But even with all the globalization, even with all of us moving around the globe, even with the entire diaspora being available any part of the world, 65% of Indians still live in rural areas. And if we were just got to look at the size of our population and therefore the influence of our population on our economy, and to understand where we are in physical sense, nearly 6 of the top 25 cities in the world which are most populous, which are densely populated. If you take the top 25 in the world, 6 are Indian cities. You really can't miss out when you look at these factors, when you look at these features of the Indian countries and its people's dispersal, and also the way in which we are all living, our policy and our planning will have to keep all these in a very positive angle and move forward. So if in the global list of cities which are densely populated, the top 25, if you were to take it, top 25 includes 6 Indian cities. All right. Then if you look at how we have to plan for ourselves, and therefore some part of my talk will also be going towards it, let's understand if all these people are living only in those 6 cities or otherwise. Look at the way the population is spread across the country. If on an average for every square kilometer, there are about 460 Indians. That's about 2019 data, but our last census was only 2011. And if you go by 2011, probably it is only about 382 persons living within 1 square kilometer area. 382. But that data, if it has to be updated to 2019, we are 460 people in per square kilometer area. That's an average for the country. But that's not the case all over the country. You have a Bihar or a Bengal where more than 1,000 people live within 1 square kilometer area. Bihar, it's about 1,102 people, whereas in Bengal, it's about 1,029. On an average in India, we are only, say, 382 people in per square kilometer area. So if you look at density also of population, it's not the same thing all over the country. All right. Does that mean that this density consists of roughly the same age group? Not at all. What was the situation in China in 1990 is the situation today, much to our favor in India. Over 35% of our population, or all youth which are, in the age group of 15 to 34, which was the case in China in 1990. Whereas China today has come down to 27% only when you're talking in terms of the population which are in the category of youth. So we have more youth in terms of percentages to the population. If we have to look at the average age of Indians, I'm grossing the figure, but 29%, 29 years of age is the average age of India. Let us say 30. In China, it is actually 37, which is closer to 40. Average age of Indians is 29 years. Chinese are about 37. Japanese are 48. So if you were to broadly put them in silos, 30 is Indian, 40 is China, 50 is Japan. Now, if this is the way it is, what is the life expectancy? 72 years. Women live longer in India. Women live 72 years lifespan, whereas men live about 69 years. The lifespan is also expanding. Now, this population that we have today is believed to, or is expected to touch 1.5 billion by the year 2030, which is 18% of the world's population will be with us at that time. And the population is expected to touch 1.7 billion by the year 2050. Now, if this is where we are in physical terms, actually speaking, we have an India today which is facing the pandemic. People are adjusting to different new situations. There are really big challenges. A lot of people are really going through a lot of difficulties. You, me, government, everybody is trying to help one another. But even with this said, with a certain level of understanding, I'm not saying the situation is across the board the same thing, but with all the challenges, with all the difficulties, if we are to look at 2020 India, it is a better assertive India, but of course not at all aggressive. It is a better confident India, of course very cautious. And even more importantly, India has shown global leadership at a time when it is all challenged because of the pandemic. How did we show the global leadership? Look at the way we readily became the global pharmacy. India, of course, has had this strength of being the biggest generic medicine manufacturer. Generic pharmaceuticals, India is the biggest. We still have a lot of lead in many of the medicines which are critical for the world. But during the pandemic too, we were the first ones to make sure and still continue to supply HCQs, hydroxychloroquine tablets for the world, which even today without a vaccine, some of them under medical guidance depend on HCQs. When we produced none at all of PPEs before the pandemic started, we didn't have any production of PPEs, and we had to import the PPEs and the masks and so on. Today, nearly 5 lakh PPEs are being used by India, and now we are also making sure we export more without much of a restriction because the world needs it and we have the capacity to produce it. We have also been, aside from the pandemic, we have also been recognized for the first responder, being the first responder during any disaster, whether it is floods, excessive rains, or any disaster in the sea, in the high seas, whether it's piracy. India is the first responder to take care of the global marine lines, go over to countries which run short of drinking water and supply them. If there is a war-torn zone, bring Indians and also others from that war-torn zone, and so on. Where there has been tsunami and earthquake, India has been the first responder to go with medicine and necessary paramedic staff to attend to the needs of that area. So India's global leadership for all these humanitarian aspects are very well recognized. We have never ever failed the world in being the first responder in HADR activities, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief activities, and also in providing this time during the pandemic the medicines that are so required. So if today's India is an assertive India but not aggressive India, if today's India is a confident India and not forgetting to be cautious, and if today's India is a leader in the world, especially for humanitarian causes, this is very recognized by the people of India, and its leadership has shown repeated commitments in serving the world for keeping humanitarian considerations top of the agenda. We've never been expansionist. So we have to be clear in being able to stand up with confidence and speak about these topics. We understand some of the other features which I want to put forward before you. We may be told by different thinkers of the world that India's population is good, India's this is that, and so on and so on. But we as Indians do understand that we have a democracy, which is not just a democracy in that sense. But what does it mean to us? It means that we believe in rule of law. Our courts may take, our judicial process may take a long time, but we still do everything through the process of law. And you can take any contentious issue, and it is also, even in spite of emotions and in spite of public popular responses and so on, it is through the process of law we achieve even the most contentious of issues. In the last 5 years, you can take any number of examples, whether it is triple talaq, whether it is Ram Mandir, Ayodhya, every process, every such issue which would have been thought as being contentious has gone through the scrutiny of the courts. And therefore, we as a country believe in the rule of law. Nothing is bypassed and everything is held up in the same spirit as is the spirit which is embedded in the Constitution. So, in fact, I would like to say, unfailingly, we have proved to be a very strong democracy in the elected sense of the word. Elected representation being the democracy that we have been unfailingly performing that duty of being an elected representative parliamentary democracy. Not once has that been violated, even when there were violations. Just 1 second, remember, India got back to its principled position of never violating elected democratic norms. Second. And third, under the same thing of ours is a democracy, and how do we understand? The third point on that is we believed not keeping the democracy only centralized at the Government of India level. Democracy, rule of law is completely decentralized. The elected representation of people begins at the bottommost, whether it's the panchayat or the local bodies, which is the third tier of Indian democracy, and the second one where the state legislators, and the one above it, which is the parliament. So the democratic elected power, actually the people's power, actually moves from bottom up, from panchayat to the local panchayat and local bodies to the state, and from the state to the parliament. So we as democracy very clearly believe the rule of law, very clearly believe in the elected representative system, and unfailingly have kept up this principle. And third, the democracy and the elected power is not concentrated at the center, it's clearly down to the grassroots. If anything, it's from the grassroots upwards. So India understands that it's a democracy and appreciates it values it, and that is why we've got these successful three-layered elected representative democracy. So our understanding of democracy is just not just for the sake of it, just for the name of it. It's a truly vivacious, vibrant democracy. Second is this question of its demography, which I've already said. What is the age group? What is the profile? Where do they stay? How concentrated are they? And is that concentration just in all parts of the country, or is it different? Given that, we also understand that our democracy, demography, our population has its strength in particularly becoming educated, not just literate. Our strength globally today is we supply to the entire world good doctors, good paramedics. Our engineering services provide project support in many of the countries which definitely need a lot of projects to be undertaken, building of their secretariat, building of their roads, building of their bridges. Many countries believe in Indian project support, project building supports. So there are layers of Indians who have qualified. Of course, there are still many more who have to achieve that. I'm not denying, but I'm also not refusing to believe that it has reached. It has not reached everybody. It hasn't reached many yet. But for us to look at only that and say, "Oh my God, we have so much to achieve," we cannot also ignore the fact that Indians, on their own spirit, have become top-notch doctors, top-notch scientists, top-notch paramedics, and so on. Look at the capacity of ISRO today. ISRO today produces affordable satellites, mini nano satellites, pocket-sized, handheld-sized satellites, and it is established that we produce affordable satellites to the extent that 50 countries, if I'm right, no, sorry, 20 countries have a partnership with ISRO. And we've launched more than 50 satellites of these countries other than launching our own satellites. These are things which we have to recognize and grant it to our demography, that Indians have increasingly proven that they acquire the qualification and also master in using it for the purpose of goodness for our country, for benefiting our country's climate studies, agriculture. All of them benefit from this kind of a use of their skills. As a result, today, globally speaking, we are launching satellites, manufacturing and launching satellites 4 times cheaper than any others who produce anywhere else. It's come down to such figures, sometimes it's people are amazed. We are now even on the league to produce not 100 crore for a satellite, 35 crore we are producing satellites today. So our demography today should not just be seen as, oh my God, huge population, India is a challenge. Yes, I do recognize we have a challenge to skill them, find them jobs, make them entrepreneurs, and so on. Equally, we can't forget the fact that Indians are the best doctors, best nurses, paramedics, best scientists, best IT providers, and so on. So that's your second, what is India today? Third, if you're really talking about India today, you are looking at the economy, which has certain features which we cannot ignore. I put the first one, which is an obvious one. Again, I try to highlight the obvious one for its obvious successes. India's economy. Normally, whenever students prepare for exams, or they sit for the UPSC, or they sit for some kind of a entrance exam somewhere, what do they understand of Indian economy? Oh my God, excess dependence on agriculture, income disparity, per capita income being low, and so on. But for a minute, let us look at India's dependence on agriculture. Yes, true. Even today, 65% of our population is in the rural area, dependent on jobs in the rural area. It may be self-employed or it may be working under somebody else. Nearly 60%, 65%. But the workforce, it is believed, if you look at it, nearly 50% of our workforce is directly engaged in agriculture and related activities. Agriculture and related activities contributes only about 17.5% to our GDP, but that's the portion of that's the size of our population, which is directly engaged in agriculture or related activities. 17.5% contribution, but nearly 50% of the population dependent on it. But let us look at what India's agriculture is like today, other than these two major facts. We are the top producers of milk. We are the top producers of pulses. We are the top producers of jute. But we are also the second highest in producing rice. We are the second highest in producing wheat, second highest in producing sugarcane, second highest in producing groundnuts and vegetables, fruits, cotton, second highest in producing dry fruits and so on. So if that is the second largest, then we are also in the high league, maybe the third or the fourth in ranking when we are looking at livestock, when we are looking at poultry, when you're looking at fisheries, when you're looking at plantation-based goods. So if plantation-based crops are all looked at these set of four things, poultry, fisheries, and plantation, we may be the third or the fourth rank in the world. So essentially, our agriculture, our farmers have worked up against all odds and kept India at the highest in the league. So, India's future, we have to understand, cannot ignore the well-being of people engaged in these activities. India is going to be the world's food basket, there's no doubt. But if it has got to be the food basket, can we ignore the livelihoods and can we ignore the well-being of people who are engaged in it? Today, that is why when the Prime Minister repeats that he wants to double the income of those people who are engaged in these activities, it has a very strong case. We owe it to them. We owe it to them to improve their lives, improve their income, and so on. So one feature of the Indian economy is the dependence on agriculture, but against all odds, I think that dependence, particularly in the post-pandemic era, will have to be seen as a strength which we have to absolutely give support to. Second is underutilization of our natural wealth. This is one of the qualities which anybody studying about Indian economy will say, we have not utilized our endowments properly. Whether it's your mineral wealth, your metals, your rare earths, are all lying there yet to even be prospected and yet to even be fully extracted. Extracted for your own benefit so that you don't need to import. So that Atmanirbhar package that we announced had a major chunk of opening up mining sector. Opening up mining so that there are better, open, transparent processes through which the wealth of India can be brought out, but at the same time benefit those people who live in those areas where these endowments are under the earth. So that's the second. Third feature which most people will look at is lack of infrastructure. Yes, it's true that we still have many roads to be built, many waterways to be improved, many airports to be changed, many seaports which receive and sell goods outside, which receive the imports, need better world-class facility. And that is why the National Infrastructure Pipeline was announced. Infrastructure with projects identified, with projects ready for investment, were all identified so that no investor coming from either within the country or outside will have to search as to where he has to go put his money. It's already there by the state, by the nature of the product, and it is now on a dashboard for anyone to see as to who's going to bid for it, who's going to invest in it, and where these projects lie, and so on. So today's India, if you're really studying about Indian economy, You're talking about dependence on agriculture. You're talking about infrastructure. You're talking about mineral and metal wealth, which is not being utilized. So I'm listing it out for you, recognizing that this is where India today is and where we are trying to take it forward. Fourth is we talk about poor capital formation. We don't have private sector, private investors coming in a big way. Capital available per head individual is very low, and therefore the present rate of capital formation is not highly appreciable. Can it not be better? And so, yes, we are trying to encourage people to come and invest, not just keep it in savings, small savings, but also go into the markets so that they can become participants in companies and their future. That is where it was important to bring in one data point, which I'm not giving as number, but as a observation. Someone pointed out to me that during the pandemic, when it was all locked down, the number of demat accounts open was the highest in the country. If that is one fact which we cannot ignore, that the middle class, the retail investor, is now keen to get into the stock market, and therefore he's gone ahead with opening demat account. At the same time, let us not forget the poorest of the poor. Because of Jan Dhan accounts opened by the Prime Minister in 2014, were able to get through direct benefit transfer monies into their account, cash into their account. Of course, many of them did not utilize it in the first month for fear that they may need it sometime in the future. So the contrasting picture is something which we have to keep in mind when we are planning for future of India in tomorrow's India. So broadly, these are about the economy. The low per capita income is a factor which we'll have to worry about. It's also because of the huge denominator in terms of population that we have. We need to work to build them and bring them to higher levels of income. Now, even as I'm talking about these, recognizing the three factors which we'll have to be very proud of, at the same time conscious to use it the way in which we have to use it. I said democracy, I talked about the demography, which we have to consciously improve and use also, and about the economy. The three major indicators about India today, which I highlighted. I'll come to the point of, all right, today we know about the India that we are talking about. You explained in the population, you also spoke about the values that we hold in democracy, elected representative democracy, and so on. I spoke also about the way the economy is spread. So what are we going to do post-pandemic? Let's not forget that even with the pandemic, just as when I began my talk, I highlighted the fact that Indians readily adapted to technology. The digital India activities in the last few years has stood by us brilliantly during this time. I like to re-emphasize on this fact that when direct benefit transfer was happening, there were many countries in the world looking at and searching for ways to reach their population with the money that they have to give them. They were writing out checks, asking door delivery to be done, whereas we were going door delivering cash for people who had Jan Dhan accounts, who received the money from the central government. And therefore, the digital revolution that India has seen is an exemplar for the world, and that is something which we should be able to carry as a product India has succeeded in delivering for a huge population like this, for financial inclusion. Many countries are showing interest as to how India succeeded in this revolution. Second, again using the digital, during the pandemic, we are seeing how telemedicine is coming of help for a lot of people. Telemedicine through which doctors are giving advice to a lot of people who are quarantined, who are at home isolation, and so on. So I would think India's role as Dhanvantri to the entire world is proving again and again, not only are we the pharmacopoeia of the world, not only are we supplying generic medicine to the world at affordable rate, not only are we the leaders in producing life-saving drugs at very cheap cost, course. But we are now also showing that because of our mastery on digital, we can produce such telemedical facility to the entire world. Earlier, we used to talk about medical tourism, where people who came from abroad were here and getting treated here, but they are experts from wherever could help us. Today, telemedicine will do that easily for the entire world, and India has shown the way for it. Similarly, we've also used technology to benefit education during this time of lockdown. I would think that's an area in which we have to invest more, build more, spread more, and market it more. Education, Vishwa Guru, India's Vishwa Guru's role will be strengthened because of the way in which we can use technology to take teacher and his word to the classroom. Two other areas which I'd like to highlight are, if we want to better market India, better market Indian products abroad, not only should we be able to find out ways of doing it, I'll just give you two indicators. You would have heard of geographical indicators, GI, the GI tag which every country gets. Now, GI tags are given on 4 counts. I'm sure many of you know it. It's given for agri products like basmati rice. It's given for manufactured goods. It's given for handicraft goods. It's also given for natural products or for foodstuffs. India has so much more to do on its ground, on this ground. Just giving you an example. And by the way, incidentally, I'm very happy to say, from among all the GI which many of the states have obtained, Karnataka tops the list with 42 GIs. It's such a happy news to share with you all. I'm sure many of you all know it already. 42 GI have been obtained geographical indications, which are such recognition for unique products. 42 is obtained by Karnataka. Next highest comes 35, is in Tamil Nadu, 30 Maharashtra, and so on. However, in India, the first GI was given for West Bengal's Darjeeling tea. Now, these are, as I said, for agri products, for handicrafts, for natural products, for food products, and for manufacturing goods. If we identify more and more, as things stand, I'm told there are over 600 applications from all over India for obtaining GI tag, because after that, your global market access would be absolutely recognizing the quality that you are GI tag holder. But we are nowhere in the league compared to many of the countries abroad. This entire process of GI started only in 2004. If you look at it, European Union and countries like Germany have, of course, gone in tens of thousands, 15,000, 20,000, and so on. China is also very high up in the league. Ukraine, which is ex-USSR country. Vietnam, again, has high levels of GI. So we should very clearly identify more and more products so that they can get the tag and benefit from better marketing skills and marketing opportunities. If that is about the GI, geographical indication, I also want to play a bit on innovations and patents. If for the future, as I said, digital is going to play a big role. We have already shown the global leadership because of the way we've handled our pandemic. We need greater patents to be registered from this country. I'll just give you the latest picture of where we stand with this. The World Intellectual Property Organization, which we in short refer to as WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, gave out its figures in 2019 for the year 2018. Look at the figures. There's so much to be done here. And this is for India of tomorrow. In terms of the patent application for the years 2018, United States of America had more than 56,000. China had 53,000. Japan had 49,000 odd. Germany had 20,000 odd. Even South Korea had 20,000 odd. How many do India have? India has 2,013 only. And of course, I must recognize between 2017 and 2018, there was a 27% increase in the number of applications for patents from India. But we are only still in 2000s, whilst the other countries are doing tens of thousands, 50,000, 40,000, and so on. I think it's very important India recognizes that we register more application and record more for the sake of solutions that this country needs. Just again, one example, not an example otherwise. We need to learn, and therefore the example. In 2018, just one corporate body had more than 5,400 applications for patents. It won't surprise you if I tell you the name. It's a Chinese company called Huawei. 5,400 patent application within 1 year, 2018. So I would think that India's youth will have to focus on more of these, because what MSMEs have played for Indian economy, being the backbone, they are still the backbone, they will continue to be the backbone, because they spread across all sections of our economy. They constitute more than 40% of Indian exports. They are present everywhere. They employ so many people locally. They know the market pulse. They do so well, and we need to help them to not only survive but prosper. But if that was that India with MSME, today's India needs innovative solutions. Today's India needs in-situ solutions. We need startups to come in a very big way. And I'm addressing Disha, Bharat, which is largely Bengaluru based. Startups are really the essence of Bengaluru. We need startups to give the country in-situ solutions, whether it is for infrastructure, building of more quick schools, colleges, and institutions. We need startups to be a lot more relevant, even for making India's agricultural ambitions to obtain more wings. So I can elaborate more on many of these points, but India of today needs many more entrepreneurs, many more innovations, many more patents, so that strength that we have in our demography, that strength we have in our agriculture, that strength we have in our talented youngsters can all benefit not just India, but also the globe. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I hope I didn't take more than my allotted time, but very inspiring and motivating to interact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You have made us realize that an optimist is one who seeks challenge as an opportunity. Thank you for throwing light on this. Ma'am, may I seek your permission to ask a few questions that our viewers have posed for you?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am. The first question: what is the role of youth towards accelerating the economic growth of India? How the youth of this nation can contribute for making Bharat Atmanirbhar?
As I said, youth constitute the majority of our population, large chunk of our population, now and for tomorrow and for the next coming few years. It is important not to lose hope, but to make sure you acquire the skill required in the area in which your aptitude lies. Skills are the ones which are going to make a difference. Even in days when technology was not available, many of us went from pillar to post to acquire what we thought was necessary skills. Today, you have the benefit of technology. Skill is at your doorstep, at your table. So it is important for youth to not lose confidence. It is their skills which are going to make a difference. Above all, you will be the biggest chunk in the world of providers of services of all kinds. And that is where you're going to help in accelerating the Indian economy. So I would think acquiring skill and being optimistic are the two things which youth of this country should do so that they can contribute.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for the answer. And there is one more question. Under the able leadership of our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, several historic decisions and activities of development are taking place. Unfortunately, all of a sudden, the corona pandemic severely affected our socio-economic conditions. How would you look? How would you look for our future post Corona days with new challenges and opportunities? According to you, what are the challenges we need to be ready to face, and what can be the opportunities that we can make use of?
As I said, the opportunities are very clearly before us. You can identify them. Many of us have tried identifying it. They are not to be, searched for. They are obviously there. India's role as a very proud, strong democracy which believes in rule of law, we stand out, and we don't need to underestimate ourselves, comparing ourselves with unlike us countries which are not democratic, countries which don't believe in empowering the people, need not be our exemplars. We don't need to look at them to derive strength. The biggest challenge will be to keep optimism high and be able to look at the world, look into the eyes of the world and speak in equal terms without arrogance, but that India is a big, confident contributor to the global peaceful endeavors. We are not aggressors. We are contributors to the world at times of emergency and at times of calm. We are the people who are available for all over the world to be able to be part of any system and work together without disruptions, without becoming different from them, so different from them that people are worried about you. So Indians inherently contribute with their skill, with their team value, and above all, looking at the world as one among many, we being one among the many, and therefore giving a positive contribution. That's something which we have to speak out with confidence and not forget for a minute that we have a huge civilizational advantage. We have never ever in the past behaved in such a way that any memory anywhere in the world tells them, be careful of India because they would do this, they would do that. Not at all. If anything, we have culturally enriched the world. We have spread message of peace and goodwill. We have become participants to the growth of the world. So we need to have that confidence. We should not be self-depreciating. We should look into the eyes of people and be able to contribute, saying we are willing participants for the global betterment. We need that confidence.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The whole country is excited now because the 74th Swatantrata Divas is just nearing us in just next 3 days. What is your message for college students and teaching community in their social responsibility to build a stronger India?
This is a very difficult one for me to answer because youngsters have a very, very clear head today. They are not hesitant. They are very sure of themselves. These are all very good qualities. It is important that they constantly remain vigilant in the sense that they remain positive in their attitude, not get carried away by anything that they are hearing without looking at the veracity of it, without talking to elders, their teachers, their parents, and people who, among their friends who they think are level headed, to understand what is before them rather than get excited. Youngsters, by nature, can get excited and no harm about it. But we need to be careful and responsible. Today, the world, because it has so many different technological instruments, becomes a very difficult and challenging place because you're flooded with information, some of which is not true, some of which may not have any basis. We have to remain calm. We also have to understand all that comes before us, talk to different people before we judge or before we jump into conclusions. I would think today's youngsters are very, very clear headed, very knowledgeable. They read, they hear a lot, they know a lot. But one word of caution from me would be sure of what you get, be sure of what you hear, be sure of what you see. Don't rush into any conclusion. That itself will bring in a lot of positivity into the environment.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This was a really enriching session. From your talk, we assure you that we will work hard today for a better tomorrow, not just for ourselves, but for the betterment of whole of Bharat and for the whole world. Android Toynbee says, at the close of this century, the world would be dominated by the West. But the 21st century, India will conquer all its conquerors. I'm sure that we will work together to make this the words of every historian who has sought blessings for India true in upcoming days. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us and helping all our viewers to understand the current scenario and also dreaming about the next future. Thank you. Thank you so much. Vande Mataram.
Yes. Madam, thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.